Good morning, everyone. My name is Sankaran, and today I will be presenting on Introduction to AngularJS. In this seminar, we will explore how this framework empowers web development using the MVC architecture. First, let's understand what AngularJS is. It is an open source JavaScript-based framework that is mainly maintained by Google. It is designed to address many of the challenges encountered in developing single-page applications. It acts as a structural framework designed to solve many of the challenges we face when building single-page applications. It works by extending HTML. It reads your HTML page and use custom tag attributes, which we call directives, to bind the input or output parts of the page directly to JavaScript variables. It works by reading the HTML page, which has embedded custom tag attributes. Angular interprets those attributes as directives to bind input or output part of the page to model, represented by the JavaScript. Let's see the core features of the AngularJS. First one is MVC architectures. Implements model view controller pattern to separate data presentation and application logic. Then data binding. Automatic synchronization of data between the models and the view components. And the third main core feature of the AngularJS is directives. Works on DOM elements like attributes that tells AngularJS to attach a specified behavior. One of the core concepts of AngularJS is the MVC architecture, as you can see in the diagram. MVC stands for Model, View, and Controller. The model represents our data and business logic. It is a single source of the data for the application. The view is a simply by the user's interface or the HTML that the user sees. The controller acts as the bridge. It handles our input and update this model. By separating the application into three parts, it makes our code much easier to manage, test, and scale. Let's see briefly. Model represents the data and the business logic. It's the single source of the truth. And view is the user interface HTML. It displays the data from the model. Controller is the bridge between model and view. It handles user input and updates the model. The separation of concepts makes the applications easier to manage, test, and scale. We can see from the diagram to understand what we learned from this MVC architecture. In this slide, we are going to see about the two-way data binding. Let's look deeper at the two-way data binding. This is considered one of the most powerful features of AngularJS. In traditional web development, you have to write code to update the data when the view changes, and vice versa. However, in AngularJS, any changes to view are immediately reflected in the model, and any changes in the model are instantly updated in the view. And this creates a continuous loop that eliminates a huge amount of repetitive boilerplate code. It is one of the most powerful features of AngularJS. Any changes to the view are immediately reflected in the model, and any changes in the models are propagated to the view. This eliminates a significant amount of boilerplate code need for a DOM manipulation. Let me see in the diagram to understand the two-way data binding. This time we are going to see about the key directives. To make this work, AngularJS uses special keywords called directives. Here are the three most common ones: ngApp, ngModel, and ngBind. ngApp that defines the root element and essentially start or bootstrap the applications. It bootstraps the application. ngApp, this defines the root element and essentially starts or bootstraps the application. The bind value of the HTML control likes input boxes or text areas to the application data. Under the ng bind, uh, that replaces the content of an HTML element with the value of special expressions. Element with the value of given expressions. Let's see about the single page applications. AngularJS is famous for creating single page applications or SPAs, seamless user experience. An SPA is a website that interacts with the user by dynamically rewriting the current page. Rather than loading entire new pages from the server like a traditional website, AngularJS handles all the routing and the rendering for us. This results in a seamless user experience that feels more like a native desktop application than on a website. The user dynamically rewriting the current page with the new data from the web server. Instead of default methods of the browser loading entire new pages, AngularJS handles the routing and the rendering, making the application feel like a native desktop feature. This is the advantage of using the single page applications in the AngularJS. To understand this, we should know about the basic syntax of the AngularJS, which is the basic syntax. Here is with the basic syntax. As mentioned earlier, AngularJS uses the HTML enhancer with the custom attributes. You can see the directives usually here used as a tags. We use expressions written inside double curly braces to display data. And the controllers are defined as JavaScript functions. They interact with a special object called scope to manage the data. This is the scope, and these all are the basic syntaxes used in the AngularJS. In this slide, we see about the dependency injections. Dependency injection. Another technical features in the built-in dependency injection subsystem. This makes applications easier to develop and test. Instead of creating dependencies like services or databases inside a component, we simply add for them as parameters. AngularJS then automatically locates the service and injects it into your controller for you to use. Built-in subsystem. AngularJS has been built-in dependency injection subsystem. It helps the developer by making the application easier to develop, understand, and test. And how it works. Instead of creating dependency inside a component, you ask for them as a parameters. AngularJS automatically locates the service or factory injection into your controller. Let's see about the difference between the AngularJS v1 versus the AngularJS v2 plus. This should be we understand AngularJS from differentiating this two AngularJS things. Features. The architecture, the MVC model. In Angular JS v1, MVC model, model way controller, and Angular v2 plus component based language JavaScript. Angular v2 plus uses TypeScript. Mobile support, no native support needed for the Angular JS v1. Mobile first approach. Angular v2 plus takes a mobile first approach. Syntax. Directive and controllers are the syntax of the Angular JS v1. Components and directors are the AngularJS v2 plus. These are the major difference between this AngularJS v1 and the AngularJS v2 plus. So let's see why we use AngularJS. Google support. Okay, the first thing is Google support. It is backed by Google and a mass community of developers works in the this AngularJS work from the Google support. Testability. I designed with the testing in mind from ground up. Unit to unit and end to end. It was designed with the testing in mind from the ground up. Both unit and end-to-end testing is a declarative UI because it uses HTML for the view. The user interface is much easier to understand and manipulate. So we use as AngularJS. The main three things why we use AngularJS is these three things. In this video, we seen about the AngularJS. Thanks for watching. Thank you.